At its peak, 8 is Enough seemed impossible to shake, beginning as a beacon of comfort and ending as one of TV's most tragic stories. Audiences embraced its cheerful portrait of family life, even though the cast privately carried a legacy that closed in darkness. Decades later, 11 cast members had already passed, claimed by illnesses, addiction, breakdowns, and losses that left fans ending their search for answers in disbelief. What unfolded behind the scenes began as quiet suffering and ended in heartbreak far heavier than anyone expected. Dick Van Patten, Tom Bradford. Rising from Queens, Dick Van Patten entered the world on December 9, 1928, beginning a lifelong career that ended as one of television's warmest legacies. When he joined 8 is Enough in 1977 at age 48, he brought decades of experience that ended up defining the show's charm. Though already a familiar performer from Broadway and early television, he began a new chapter that ended with a renewed national affection for him. His long marriage to Patricia P. started in 1954 and remained steady until the end of his life. Roles in Mel Brooks films revived his career momentum, beginning with High Anxiety and ending with Robin Hood Men in Tights. Behind his humor, Van Patten managed type 2 diabetes quietly, beginning with mild symptoms and ending in serious complications. A diabetic stroke in 2006 forced him to slow down, beginning a decline that ended his acting routine. Reinventing himself, he co-founded a successful natural pet food line, beginning a new enterprise that ended up thriving unexpectedly. But age and illness kept advancing, beginning as manageable issues and ending in steep decline. On June 23, 2015, he passed away at 86 in Santa Monica, leaving a reputation that ended as one of Hollywood's gentlest. To the millions who watched him, he began as a TV dad and ended as a symbol of kindness. Dianna Hyland, Joan Bradford. Born January 25, 1936, Dianna Hyland began her life in Cleveland Heights before ending her career as one of 8 is Enough's most memorable matriarchs. At 41, she appeared in the show's early episodes, beginning a role whose emotional impact ended up outlasting her presence. Already an acclaimed actress from Peyton Place and The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, she began the series with strong momentum that ended abruptly due to illness. Her marriage to Joe Goodson began in 1969, but ended in divorce 5 years later. Everything shifted in 1976 when she met John Travolta, beginning a romance that ended up defining her final days. As her breast cancer progressed, Hyland began fighting fiercely, but ended each battle weaker than the last. Travolta remained with her throughout, beginning each day by her side and ending each night in hospital rooms. On March 27, 1977, she died at only 41, beginning a legacy of bittersweet remembrance and ending her story in Travolta's arms. Her episodes aired after her passing, beginning as simple performances and ending as haunting reminders of her warmth. Adam Rich, Nicholas Bradford. Starting his life on October 12, 1968 in Brooklyn, Adam Rich became a star at 8 years old and ended up known nationwide as America's little brother. His bowl-cut charm helped 8 is Enough flourish, beginning a wave of fame that ended as one of TV's most iconic childhood images. As he moved into his teens, he gathered credits in shows like Code Red and Fantasy Island, beginning a promising path that ended too soon. But early fame overwhelmed him, beginning with experimentation at 14 and ending in severe addiction struggles. By 17, he left high school, beginning a long fight with identity that ended with public crises. His 1989 Valium overdose nearly killed him, beginning his most turbulent decade and ending any illusion that he was coping. In 1991, he was arrested after a minor break-in, beginning a string of troubled incidents that ended his child star innocence in the public eye. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, he kept trying to rebuild his life, beginning comeback attempts that too often ended in relapse. In 2002, his DUI arrest marked the beginning of a long struggle, and he entered rehab again and again, hoping to regain control. Years later, in October 2022, he announced on Twitter that he had reached 7 years of sobriety and urged anyone battling addiction to keep fighting, showing a man clinging to hope despite the shadows of his past. But on January 7, 2023, Adam Rich was discovered dead in his Los Angeles home at 54. The coroner later confirmed he died from an accidental fentanyl overdose, closing a story that began with bright promise and faded into quiet tragedy. Lani O'Grady as Mary Bradford. Born October 2, 1954 in Walnut Creek, California, Lani O'Grady was only 27 when she joined 8 is Enough in 1977 as Mary Bradford, the steady, responsible daughter who often held the family together. On screen, she appeared confident and composed, though off-screen she was already battling an invisible storm. Her anxiety began young, with severe panic attacks starting at 18, though her panic disorder diagnosis didn't come until she was 21, and acting only intensified the symptoms. After the series ended, the demands of Hollywood, auditions, image, pressure, became overwhelming. By the early 1990s, her mental health worsened and she developed agoraphobia and even temporary memory loss, eventually walking away from acting entirely. Doctors offered non-addictive medications to stabilize Lani, but soon she turned to her own choices of drugs. In a 1994 Los Angeles Times interview, she admitted she'd been abusing Valium and alcohol to quiet the terror of panic attacks, describing it as feeling like she was crawling out of her own skin. By 1998, her addiction could no longer be hidden, and that December, she checked into the Thalians Mental Health Center at Cedars-Sinai to detox in a final attempt to reclaim her life. Friends remembered her fighting hard to recover, but progress proved fragile. Years of anxiety and dependency had already worn her down physically. On September 25, 2001, Lani O'Grady was found dead in her Valencia, California home at 46. Extremely high levels of Vicodin and Prozac were found in her system, and the coroner ruled her death multiple drug intoxication, unable to decide whether it was accidental or intentional. Her death left fans and colleagues grieving a gentle soul. Don Matheson as Father Robert. Don Matheson, born August 5, 1929 in Dearborn, Michigan, appeared on 8 is Enough as Father Robert during the late 1970s, nearly 50 at the time, and bringing a calm, authoritative energy to the role. Before joining the show, he had already built a strong career, especially in science fiction favorites like Land of the Giants, where his intensity made him memorable. His personal life changed dramatically when he met actress Dianna Hyland, his Land of the Giants co-star, and their on-screen chemistry soon turned into marriage in 1970. Their daughter Michelle Matheson later followed them into the arts. But by the late 1970s, long work schedules and the strain of two demanding careers pulled them apart, and the marriage ended. Though Matheson rarely spoke about it, friends said the split was one of the deepest heartbreaks of his life. Through the 1980s and 1990s, he continued steady television work, taking roles that kept him active without the spotlight of his earlier fame. His life regained stability after marrying actress Maxine Arnold, who became his emotional support in his later years. Illness eventually overtook him when he was diagnosed with lung cancer, and although treatment followed, the disease progressed rapidly. Matheson faced it with quiet dignity, just as he had played many of his roles. On June 29, 2014, he died in Woodland Hills, Los Angeles at 84, leaving behind a respected legacy and a daughter who carried on his creative spirit. Michael Toma as Principal Dorsey. Michael Toma, born December 4, 1926 in Detroit, Michigan, was in his early 50s when he appeared on 8 is Enough as Principal Dorsey, the calm school leader who guided the Bradford children with patience. His brief role carried the same grace he had long shown in theater and television. Before the show, Toma's career was deeply rooted in stage work, especially the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, where he earned respect for thoughtful, poetic performances. Behind his composed exterior was a life shaped by constant travel and emotional complexity. Through the 1960s and 1970s, he moved between stage productions, guest TV roles, and teaching, appearing in well-known series including The Streets of San Francisco and The Rockford Files, strengthening his reputation as a reliable character actor. But the early 1980s brought a devastating turn.
Toma was diagnosed with cancer, a fight he faced quietly and without any public attention. Even as his health declined, he kept acting simply because he loved it. In his last months, co-workers noticed an even deeper passion in his work. On September 3, 1982, Michael Toma died in Los Angeles at 55 after battling cancer, a loss felt profoundly by those who had known his talent and kindness. Susan Richardson as Susan Bradford. Born March 11, 1952 in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, Susan Richardson was only 27 when she stepped into the role of Susan Bradford in 1977. Her bright personality and sharp humor made her one of the show's most memorable daughters. On March 15, 1978, while the show was soaring, she married Michael Verdon and soon found herself expecting a child. Producers chose to fold her real pregnancy into the storyline, something almost unheard of back then. Not long after, she welcomed her daughter Sarah on February 27, 1980. Yet even this happiness was quickly overshadowed by intense pressure. During her pregnancy, Richardson gained 90 pounds, and whispers began circulating that her job might vanish if she didn't slim down. Terrified of losing everything, she turned to cocaine as a fast way to shed weight, an impulse that would follow her for years. What she intended as a short-term fix soon became a dangerous habit. As time passed, her world began slipping out of control in unexpected ways. In December 1987, she stunned the public by claiming she had been held captive in South Korea, a bizarre story many believed reflected deep inner turmoil. Acting offers dwindled, her marriage unraveled, and financial troubles crept closer and closer. The fame that once elevated her eventually became too heavy to bear. By the late 1990s, Susan Richardson had nearly vanished from Hollywood, battling illness and slowly retreating from the life she once loved. Her bleakest chapter surfaced in 2013 when a HuffPost interview exposed just how far she had fallen. She was found living in a deteriorating trailer in Wagontown, Pennsylvania, without heat and surviving on disability checks. As of 2025, Susan Richardson is 73 years old, living quietly and far from the industry that once defined her. Connie Needham as Elizabeth Bradford.
Connie Needham entered the world on December 5, 1959 in Anaheim, California, and stepped into 8 is Enough at just 17. Her portrayal of Elizabeth Bradford, creative, emotional, and relatable, made her an instant favorite among viewers. With her lively spirit and natural charm, Connie quickly became one of the show's standout faces. Off-camera, her personal life moved just as swiftly. In 1979, at only 19, she married set designer David New at the height of her rising fame. Their marriage appeared storybook perfect in the beginning, built on young affection and shared dreams. But the strain of early adulthood, demanding schedules, and the instability of child stardom eventually caused their relationship to fracture. After more than 2 decades together and 2 daughters, they quietly ended their marriage. When 8 is Enough concluded, Connie found roles in shows like Fame and The Love Boat and picked up smaller parts during the 1980s. But as her career slowed, a common path for those who peak young, she gradually shifted her focus. She rebuilt her life through dance, returning to the passion that existed long before Hollywood. Then everything changed again. In 2009, Connie revealed she had ovarian cancer, one of the most dangerous illnesses women face. Instead of retreating, she chose to speak out, using her experience to encourage awareness and early detection. Her courage transformed her into an inspiration on a completely different level. No longer just a TV sweetheart, she became a resilient survivor who kept teaching dance throughout her treatment. As of 2025, Connie Needham is 65, cancer-free, and living a balanced, private life centered on family and the students she guides. Her legacy now stretches far beyond the series that introduced her.
It reflects a woman who came of age on national television, struggled, reinvented herself, and reclaimed her life with strength. Willie Aames as Tommy Bradford. Willie Aames was born on July 15, 1960, in Newport Beach, California, and joined 8 is Enough at 17. His character Tommy Bradford, bold, mischievous, and magnetic, captured the essence of the American teen of the late 1970s. Aames shot to teen idol fame, landing magazine covers, fan tours, and later roles in Charles in Charge and the animated Dungeons & Dragons. But when the 1980s closed, he began slipping under the pressure of a fading spotlight. With no guide for life after childhood fame, he found himself overwhelmed by insecurities he'd long kept buried. Alcohol soon became his way of coping. He later admitted it started with guilt from his youth, including stealing whiskey from a host family and punishing himself afterward. His drinking worsened, damaging his marriage and isolating him from nearly everyone around him. At his lowest, Aames slept in parks, hid under bushes, and avoided being recognized, ashamed of how far he had fallen. His decline was later documented in VH1's Broke and Famous, where he candidly revealed the pain of begging for help after once being adored nationwide. Over time, he fought his way back, committing to sobriety and confronting the wounds fame had left behind. Eventually, Aames re-entered public life as a sobriety coach and cruise director, rebuilding his world through discipline and humility. With his wife, Milo McCaslin, he co-authored the memoir, Grace is Enough, finally sharing the truth about his struggles, addictions, and the lifelong emotional battles he carried as a teen star. The book served as both release and reflection, marking the start of his recovery journey. Now at 65, Willie Aames continues working quietly behind the camera, focusing on producing and directing TV movies. He has maintained long-term sobriety and now guides others confronting the same struggles he once endured. His journey remains one of the most powerful turnarounds among the 8 is Enough cast, proving that even the deepest falls can lead to remarkable comebacks through strength and truth. Dennis Patrick, known on the show as Senator Ned Adkins, was born on March 14, 1918 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Already in his late 50s when he appeared in his guest role, he brought authority and polish to the Bradfords' political storylines. By the time he joined the series, he had already established himself as a seasoned character actor across theater and television. Yet long before 8 is Enough, his life had taken several surprising paths. After World War II, he returned home committed to pursuing acting, eventually reaching Broadway and securing his breakthrough as the dark, intense Jason Maguire on Dark Shadows in 1966. That role opened many doors, earning him acclaimed parts in The Time Tunnel, Mission Impossible, and Gunsmoke. Still, fame offered no guarantee of steady work. As television shifted during the 1970s, Patrick found himself typecast as older authority figures, making it harder to maintain consistent roles. The late 1970s and early 1980s brought him renewed attention with recurring parts on major shows, including his unforgettable run as Von Lendon on Dallas, especially the storyline where his character tries to kill JR. Behind the scenes, however, he lived far from Hollywood's chaos. Devoted to his family, he avoided the industry's social world and preferred a quiet life at home. As his career wound down, he slowly stepped back from acting and embraced a peaceful retirement in Los Angeles.
He looked back with pride on a career spanning more than 5 decades and numerous television classics. But tragedy arrived without warning. On October 13, 2002, Dennis Patrick passed away at 84 after a fire consumed his Los Angeles home, with investigators concluding he likely succumbed to smoke before escaping. A sudden and sorrowful end for such a disciplined, dignified man. More than 40 years after 8 is Enough brightened American living rooms, the real stories behind its cast have proven even more emotional than the show itself. Behind the humor were battles with addiction, illness, financial collapse, and quiet bravery, struggles no script could soften. Time has reshaped their lives, taken some early, and pushed others through unimaginable challenges. Still, the impact they left remains heartfelt and enduring. If these stories touched you, share your thoughts below. Tap like and subscribe to uncover more untold chapters from the stars who shaped television history.